Your business dreams are calling. You have this vision, and yet there is a gap from where you are today to that vision that you see. Are you moving or are you stalled? If you are in the latter camp, you're going to want to listen up, put down what you're doing, stop the distractions, because on Amplify Your Marketing Message today, we're going to talk about how to shift from that stall and get back into movement. And if you are already in movement, you will also still benefit by staying in the movement. And that is one of the key goals that we talk about a lot here on this podcast and in my business ecosystem. I am your host. This is Amplify Your Marketing Message. And today we're going to talk about the engine that is needed to create success in your business. And one of the truthful stories in my business journey is that I never set out to mentor people on the world of business, how to create a business, the foundations to do it, and understanding the rules of the game. What I did was I grew up in the world of business and I wanted to be a successful business. That was my pursuit in the early days, and it still is a huge focus for me. People started to notice. And I started to be receiving coffee invitations to go spend time together with people, and said, "Can I pick your brain?" I said, "Sure, what's going on? How can I help you?" And it was, what are you doing to create success in your business? Because I have the vision, but I'm not seeing traction. And yet I see you not working 24/7, not living in the land of hustle culture, and still seeing movement. What gives? I can't figure out the gap between the reality and the dream. And here's the shortcut, my friends. I just want to share it with you because it is simple. And that's what I truly believe. The simpler you can focus, the more execution you will do, the more results you will create, because it is truly a compound effect. But to me, I knew what to focus on as a business. I knew that you needed to build an audience of buyers. You needed to create movement and curiosity to help people go from awareness to investment ready. And you needed to be sure what your offer was that created value and results as perceived as the other person at the table. And so that simple foundation I already had, because I'd spent 25 years in the world of business working and supporting in all of the job functions that are needed: marketing, sales, operations, finance, and people management, to create pulling them together and executing the result. And it was simple. I started to share people these foundations, and I started to see people's light bulbs go off saying, "So that's how it's done. Okay, awesome." And they started to try to implement them, but they stalled. They stalled because, well, they had the vision. They didn't have the skills, knowledge, time, and commitment to bridge the gap. And perhaps that's where you are in our audience today. So this episode is going to provide a lot of value in decluttering the crap, getting clear so that you can accelerate the results in your business. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey. The truth is simply this. It's everyday truth, is that every day counts. I am not an advocate at all for working 24/7. I am not buying into, personally or with my clients, hustle culture. I am telling people focused effort on the 3 foundations that create success is the secret sauce you have been seeking. And just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy to execute. And just because it's simple doesn't mean that it is going to be something you conceptualize and implement without some guidance. Every day counts. And the compound effect is truly the 8th wonder of the world, because you don't choose when a buyer says yes. You don't choose the speed at which people travel, and you don't have direct control over the sequence of experience that your clients have, but creating the experience, being congruent in your messaging, and having absolute clarity on the result that you stand for will move mountains. It is about the amplification of it. And there are 3 things that get in our way. Which one is you? Maybe there's more than one. The first is saying something around time. The second is around resources. And the third is around discipline. All 3 of those foundations have a huge influence on the outcomes you create in your business. They are either the reason you create success, or they're the reasons you buy into your excuses and stall. Here is an inevitable thing you need to know. As a business owner, whether you're a solopreneur, a professional consultant, a freelancer, or someone who has a growing team and is a small business owner, you, as the business owner, are the engine for the results. That does not mean that you need to be your only fuel source. But what are the fuel sources you need? They are time, resources, and discipline. And so understanding that those elements create the fuel, they're the oxygen to create the results, is really, really important. And so if you, right now in your business, are not where you want it to be, and you're struggling to bridge the gap between the vision and where you are now, I want you to look at your fuel sources around time, around resources, and around discipline, knowing that those are essential ingredients to create results. When I'm working with a client, we're looking at a couple of key things. We're looking at the foundational pieces of audience building, mastering your marketing message, and creating offers that convert. And one of the things that I ask every client before we even begin, and I make an invitation to work with me, I ask them about their engine. The question's pretty simple. Is the fire lit? What is the vision that you see? Where are your gaps? And taking the time to slow down and honestly answer your gaps is key, because I don't know any business owner, myself included, who started this journey with all of the fuel we needed to reach the finish line. People always want to know, when we're talking about a roadmap, what's included? What resources do I need? What will they be provided in the container of which this program or service is delivered? And the most important question for many is, how long will it take? Well, there isn't a one-size answer. So if you're hearing a one-size answer from people in your ecosystem, whether they're peers, whether they're people you've retained services with, I just want to tell you, for someone who's helped create a ton of revenue with 400 clients over the course of my career to date, it's BS. There is not one way. There is not one perfect solution, because you are your fuel source, and your fuel source is going to differ from somebody else's. But the pieces of the foundation don't change. And so recognizing that every day counts, recognizing that your thoughts and actions around time, resources, and discipline will be the fuel source you need to bridge the gap between reality and your vision that you see. And so if that's the truth and that's the foundation, the most important questions you need to be asking yourself is, where are my gaps? If there is a crunch on time, I want you to understand that time is a construct of our own imagination. You get to utilize your time based on priorities you set. Nobody has more time than you. Nobody has less time than you. The truth is that time is flexible based on how we see it. And I want to tell you a story about time, because I think it's important for you to cast your vision and get your excuses out of the way. When I built my first business, I built it as a side hustle. I built it 1 hour a day. And people say to me, you can't possibly build a business 1 hour a day. And I said, well, I am willing to commit, non-negotiably, 1 hour a day. And because I had spent my whole life in the world of business, I knew what to focus on in that 1 hour. And that 1 hour was more effective than most of my peers who spent 10 to 16 hours a day on it. And because there was this massive gap between the amount of time and the results created, people started to notice a really big gap. And it led to invitations for coffee. Invitations are, can I pick your brain? What the heck are you doing? And a lot of people observing in silence the path I was on. And perhaps you're one of those people that are still observing the path I'm on, hoping that through osmosis you can observe me and execute what I'm doing. You will get some progress, but it's not the fast route, my friends. I knew what to focus on, and it was the focus around time. It was the focus around the resources and the discipline that made the big difference. I recognized I was my fuel source. I recognized that I had to non-negotiably show up to take action, and I identified and filled the gaps in my own skill set, in my own mindset, and in my own plan and blueprint to get there. And I was in good movement, no two ways about it. That is why I kept getting the invitations. But I did know that my runway working 1 hour a day was going to be long. And so when people say, well, how long will it take to create a business, Christine? I said, well, that entirely depends on you. I've seen people create great success in short periods of time, and I've seen people take 10 years. The question you should be asking around time is, how long have I got? How much energy can I sustain at the rate I'm currently moving? And is that something I can live with at the end of the day? Because when I made the first decision to invest in myself, in my business, the first thing I did was invest in a group program. It was $10,000 to do a group program with a very well-known guru. You can actually see me in their highlight reel, so you might want to send yourself on a scavenger hunt around that. But I knew that there were things they could teach me that would help me speed up the engine and provide the discipline over an extended period of time. It happened to be 6 months to get moving, because that 1 hour a day, just the horizon seemed too long at the time. And I made the investment. I was scared. I was really in my head around the money, which really wasn't a money conversation. The money conversation was about the commitment. I mean, no more excuses, Christine. If you're going to write a big check, you're going to have to show up. And could I prioritize myself and my own dream? And could I really reach for it? That was the hesitation that went pretty rampantly around my head for about 48 hours before I said, seriously, Christine, get out of your way. And I was encouraged to do that by my husband, who's like, I've never seen you hesitate like this before. If the shoe was on the other foot and you were working with a client, would you hesitate? I'm like, no. He's like, don't hesitate on your dreams. You take your own advice, which is bet on yourself, bridge the gap, put the excuses down, and go. Every day counts. So this is where I was at. I recognized I wouldn't stay the course and be able to recognize the journey. I needed to accelerate it. So I made an investment to change the fuel source, add oxygen to it. And that led to a really big breakthrough. I learned a ton. I focused a lot internally on building and how to support and the mentorship execution piece. But what I did not do was build an audience. That cost me huge in terms of speed, which is time. It cost me resources, and it faltered in my discipline because I did not see the result I was seeking. I learned a lot, but I didn't hit the goal line. And so I was asking myself, so what next? Do I quit on my dream, or do I need to check my fuel source? And so I did recognize there were still gaps. There were components I had not thought through. And so I needed to make an adjustment because every day counted. And so I started to look at, what did I need? What resources were still missing? How could I get them? I recognized the need to take action more quickly. And what I meant by that for me personally was it needed to be more than an hour a day. And I needed to check myself with my why, with the vision I could see about motivation. Because motivation, if you are relying on it to be your fuel source, is dangerous. We are human beings, which means we are not always motivated. It doesn't matter whether you are just starting or someone who is even that multi-million-dollar ecosystem of a business owner. There is days when you will not be motivated. So motivation in itself wasn't enough, but I thought, what could I surround myself with that could be touchstones to plug into, to refuel myself, to keep going? And I surrounded myself. I built my office with that in mind, and I shifted my excuses. And I started to create a second business. The business that we're in now, the business of Clear Acceleration Inc. Because people kept saying to me, Christine, I get it. What you say makes sense. It's the reason I want to be around you. It's the reason I want to go. What room are you in? Can you introduce me? I want to be part of the ecosystem. But I said, following along is not enough. If you are not where you want to be in your business, one of three things is happening. You don't know how to create success. You are executing what you believe will create success, and yet it is falling short. Or you simply know what to do and you're not doing it. I want you to be listening and saying, which of those lanes of traffic am I in today? And if you get honest with the answer, the next question you want to be asking is, where does the excuse lie? Is it around time? Is it around resource? Or is it around discipline? And knowing where your excuses lie, there's only one question I have for you. What do your excuses cost you? And what if you put it down? What if you choose to get out of your way? What if you choose to recognize that I can't get there by myself? I know myself. That is the most important thing. I always think anybody who wants to build a business, this is a personal development journey. You do not start day one with the answers. You do not start day one with all of the fuel you will need to traverse a very long runway. You do not start with bulletproof vision. And so it's up to you to say, knowing myself, knowing where my gaps are, what do I need? You must be the engine of your own business. Knowing what you know about yourself, what happens around time. Time is a flexible continuum. I built my first business an hour a day. No excuses. It was more valuable that 1 hour than 10 to 16 hours my peers were doing. It's not time that's the problem. It is effort on the right things. It is about resources, like what skills do I have? Do I know about marketing? Do I confidently know how to sell? Do I know how to deliver a consistent, predictable, high quality service all the time? No excuses. Do I know how to manage conflict of people? And that's either people in my own team, people in my own head, because yes, I talk to myself all the time, or people I'm trying to move, which is my audience, from curious to being an investor in my services. Do I know how to crunch the numbers so that I recognize my business's health economically? And am I building the life I want? If I don't have those resources, what steps can I do to obtain them? Knowing that you have two paths, self-learning and modeling and accelerating with someone who can show you the way. When you want to know how long will it take, the answer is looking at you when you face the mirror. That depends on you. And the key is to say, I have to recognize that I must obtain resources. I must commit non-negotiably to the actions. And if I'm not sure of how, that's an excuse. It's a solvable problem. Go solve it. And finally, the third piece of that puzzle is know myself with discipline. It is not enough to stay motivated every day through your own fuel source. You've got to recognize, what do you need to get accountability? What do you need to plug back into your vision? What do you need to say, I will take focused action to create movement? Because the simple truth is business is not complicated. How do you create massive impact and amplify your marketing message? You stay in the game. You focus on building capabilities. You focus on the discipline of action, not getting caught only into, do the results show up in a nanosecond? Compound effect is real. And one of the most important, I'm going to give you 2 book resources in today's episode that really made a big difference for me and my mindset in getting myself out of my own way. The first was talking about the E-Myth Revisited. This book really is an important book for people to read if they are in their emerging days of entrepreneurship, because you need to understand, are you trying to buy yourself a job? Do you have a vision of shifting from being a contractor to being somebody who is a business owner? Or do you view yourself as a CEO? This is a continuum, and we sometimes slide back and forward through it, but setting your vision of what do you want this to be? Because no matter whether you are a consultant, you are a business owner, or you are a CEO of an enterprise, you must be the engine of your business, learning about marketing, sales, operations, people management, and the P&L finance piece is essential. If you are not prepared to step into all of those, to create the time, to build the resources, and to have the discipline of pulling the pieces together, go get a job. With great kindness, just go get a job. Because those are the keys to what business is in fact about. If you want a business, you must create the foundations and apply yourself in it. E-Myth Revisited is book number 1. It will really help you see your vision and feel and reflect on where you are right now. The second book resource I want to recommend to you today is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. This is about the discipline of movement. This is about the discipline of the 1%. It's about deciding whether it's 1 hour a day or a full-time commitment. You must show up non-negotiably, recognizing that you're choosing the speed to create your engine, to create the results. Because you have so many moving pieces, and I get it. That's sometimes the biggest reason why we're uncertain. It's the biggest reason why we spend all this time planning to plan and living in the let me check the I's, let me dot the T's, instead of moving and taking that one first step. But my discipline, my focus on building resources, and my utter lack of letting time be the excuse is why I'm in the success I'm in today. And it is cumulative. So we are halfway through the year. Every day counts. If there's a gap between your vision and your reality, you must bridge the gap. You must know you are the engine. You can find your fuel sources, and there were 3. So we talked about in today's episode. Go check those 2 book resources I recommend. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast. This is your roadmap to creating success. This is how you pull the pieces together. This is how you amplify your message so that what? You create influence. You build the business that you want. And you know repeatedly that you can make good decisions that create predictable results so that you can have consistent client growth and people you want to play with and the income that supports the life and dream you subscribe is the success measure for yourself. I am your host, Christine Campbell Rapin. This has been an episode of Amplify Your Marketing Message. Let me know. Drop me a note. Tell me, does this hit and land with you? What did you need to hear? And what actions are you personally committing to taking? I'll see you all on our next episode.